Good day, guys. I'm not going to cover an album today. I know I said I would, but this week, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced its new inductees. Now, previously, I was on a podcast and we would talk about the Rock Hall quite a bit and our top 10 albums. It wasn't meant to be a musical podcast, but somehow it morphed into that. Now, last year, in between the end of that show and this show, I did a Facebook post on my personal page that talked about it. But anyhow, these are this year's inductees. In the regular performer category, which means you got voted in by the people who vote for you. All right, the first one was Mary J. Blige. Now, I was a little bit late coming in on this train because I heard Mary J. Blige, but I would, in here, connect her to Missy Elliott, and they're two very different artists. So when Haiti had that earthquake and Mary J. Blige performed Hard Times, Go Away No More, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman is incredible. Then I got to check out her soulful sound, and she's not Aretha Franklin, of course, but my gosh, she has some vocals, and she's got a great following and selling albums. So I'm not gonna begrudge her getting into it. Okay, let's stop right there. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Nowadays, people are going like, Mary J. Blige is not rock, okay? Or the next person is not rock. Here's the thing, it's rock and roll. You got rock, and then you got the roll. That's gonna cover everything, okay? Now, that first year, when you had Elvis, rockabilly, okay? You had the Everly Brothers, who were country influenced. Then you had James Brown. James Brown? Yeah. He is the godfather of soul. You can't tell me he don't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Ray Charles was in there too. Now, Little Richard was rock and roll, and so was Chuck Berry. But on today's standards, people might not say that's rock and roll. Rock and roll changes. And it's the and roll where we're getting things in. And back then, what was rock and roll music? Well, it wasn't country, you know, it wasn't big band or classical. It was what a lot of people call the N-word music, okay? So don't be upset when people who aren't Led Zepp, who is rock and roll, get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I have no problem with Public Enemy being in there, or James Brown's got to be there. Stevie Wonder has to be there. It's the rock and roll portions. Now, that brings us to our next artist. When I saw the fan voting, and I went, oh my God, Cher is going to get posted in this year. I've never been that big of a Cher person. In fact, 25 years ago, somebody was trying to get me a gift, and he thought, well, you look like a Cher person to me, don't you? I said, no, I don't think so. But you know what? If I look back, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, you know, A Cowboy's Work Is Never Done, heck, even Take Me Home when she went disco. All right, okay, all right, I can see that. I Found Someone when she shows most of her tattooed behind. Okay, but I did not like Believe. Ugh. So I'm not gonna begrudge her. She's become a big pop icon for folks. So I wasn't surprised she got in, but I was surprised the Dave Matthews Band got in. Okay, now their first two albums were good. Crash was good. I like the album. I think it's called Every Day with the Space Between. The next album I like, Grace Is Gone, is one of my favorite songs of all time. But that was 20 years ago. I didn't like the Grux King album, and he's mainly known for his live performances, those jams. He's a jam band. So I was surprised, but if there was any one person I might not put in, No, it might be him. I was shocked. I don't know that he's put out anything great in the past 10 years, but I know those late 90s and all the way up into 2002, I was really enjoying his stuff. And like I say, Grace Is Gone is one of my favorite songs of all time. Foreigner, that's back in my day in the 70s. Wasn't that great big a fan. So when I heard Foreigner got in, it's like I went on iTunes and looked at the essentials, and I went, if I know more than 10 songs, I'm not gonna bitch about it. And I knew 12, so it's like, okay. I mean, Journey's in there. Styx isn't. Oh well. Genesis made it. So, you know, Foreigner's there. And they have tribute bands around. If you got tribute bands, you must be pretty good. Peter Frampton. Peter Frampton. I don't want to say he's in there on the basis of one album. He was in Humble Pie, and then he left and did Winds of Change, which was a good album. But the next album, 3 words, Frampton Comes Alive, really boosted him up. That might have been the #1 album of that year. I know it sold millions, at least 8 million albums. And I think based on that, that might have been what got him in, and probably the lack of great people who were eligible. I do know in the early 2000s, he was playing in bars and clubs, and then he made an appearance, a cartoon appearance on The Simpsons. Then his name skyrocketed up, and he went back to doing venues like 4,500 seaters and whatnot. And we have a tribute band in Houston called Phoenix, covering Peter Frampton. If you have a tribute band, like I said, you got to be pretty good. Kool and the Gang. Now, some of you are going like, oh, Joanna, Cherish, that's not really rock and roll. It is the roll. We've gone through that. But before they were a top 40 band, they were a funk band, and they were pretty good. I think the most famous song, if you ever see the movie Pulp Fiction in the trailer, they have that Get Down song, and that was rocking. That made me go buy Gangthology so I could get the earlier funk version of Kool and the Gang, and they were bad to the bone. And I did like Celebration. I wasn't that hot on Cherish and Joanna, but they were good. Ozzy Osbourne. He's already in there for Black Sabbath. Now, the album with Blizzard of Oz, with Runaway Train, or Crazy Train, I'm sorry, not Runaway Train, Crazy Train. And his next album did good. And then he was kind of going around in mediocrity, not selling too big. Then the show The Osbournes came up, and he went back up. I had a friend who went and saw him not too long ago, says he's still great. And you know what? If you're an old dude and can still make good music, more power to you. Even if you're living on your past, more power to you. You know, when you go to a concert and people are playing their new music, you go like, well, that's good, but how about the old stuff, you know? You want to hear the old stuff. You know, that's what made you your money. That's why you're there. Although if you go see a comedian, talk about some new stuff. Don't do the old jokes. But for music, hey, do the old music. Forget the new stuff. I don't know. A Tribe Called Quest. I am shocked they have not been in there already. They are some major influences on rap today. Kendrick Lamar says, hey, they were my band, all right? And they didn't do it with a lot of cussing and telling how big their schlong was and all the women they were going to hump. They were great musicians. Can I Kick It? Oh, my. Where it samples Walk on the Wild Side. I'm shocked they haven't been there yet. Great, great hip-hop artists. Now, those were the people that got voted in. These are the people in the Musical Excellence Award. Now, what the Musical Excellence Award is, people who have not legitimately been voted in. But the Rock Hall thinks they're nice guys. Oh, maybe they got their place here. Ringo Starr, I think, was the first person who got that vote in. You know, Ringo hadn't ever been in the rock. He hadn't ever been voted. But you know what? He was a drummer for the Beatles. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, they're all in the Rock Hall. Let's put Ringo Starr in the Rock Hall. Playboy magazine used to have their annual music poll, and they would put somebody in the Rock Hall, in their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Ringo got in that one. But, you know, Playboy was about men. Well, you got to have everybody in there that's been in the Beatles. So, who else? LL Cool J got in this way. He wasn't voted in. They said, oh, he's a nice guy. Let's put him on in. Who else? Oh, Billy Preston should be in, but he never got voted in. Let's put him in this way. Okay, so the people this year, and one of them, a guy who just passed away not too long ago, was Jimmy Buffett. You know, Jimmy Buffett, oh, the guy who did Margaritaville's not in the Rock Hall? No. I mean, you got Margaritaville, and people sing it, and then they do that. Another Lost Sacred is shot, and people chant, salt, salt, and that gets on my nerves. But he's a nice guy. People love him. He'll never get voted in. Hey, let's put him in the Musical Excellence Award. MC5. They came out in the late 60s, all right? And they are the pioneers, I guess, of punk rock. They preceded the Ramones, American punk. Let me get that straight, okay? The Ramones came after them. So if you were in punk rock America, MC5 was who you listened to. The next person. This is where I'm going to go, this is not rock and roll, you know? What's she doing in here? But it's like, and I believe it's going to open up a lot of doors for other folks. Dionne Warwick, okay? She was in the 60s. She'd had some songs in the 70s and in the 80s. She's more really a pop artist. I'm afraid if you put her in, she's a nice girl, okay? Say a Little Prayer for You was good. I'll Never Fall in Love Again. That was nice. That's What Friends Are For with Elton and Gladys and a couple other folks. Now, here's the thing. People are going to go like, well, Dionne Warwick's in. Let's put in, Olivia Newton-John. Let's put in Barbra Streisand. Let's put in the Carpenters. The Carpenters had a lot of hits, more than Dionne. So all you folks who've been wanting to see those lighter music acts come in, this might be the doorway to it. Norman Whitfield. He was a songwriter in the Motown era. My favorite by him is Papa Was a Rolling Stone. He wrote a lot of tunes for the Temptations. And Bernie Taupin got in as a songwriter. So now we're getting songwriter. Oh my gosh. Carole King got in because she used to write songs with John Geffen, and they got in there as well. I forgot to mention something about Cher. Something she did make popular is going by your first name. Without Cher, you don't got Madonna, Lady Gaga, Tiffany. I know I'm stretching it with Tiffany. The last portion is the Musical Influence Award. Now, these are people who are famous before rock music really got out there, are now people who are really underground that has influenced folks. For example, we had Woody Guthrie and Jimmy Rogers has gotten in there as well, based on their early influence. The first one is Alexis Corner. Now, he put some albums out in the 50s, and they started using that blues, rock, and soul music in there. And the early British Invasion people really loved this guy. Keith Richards said, without him, there's no Rolling Stones. Without him, there's no Who. So he comes in because he influenced other people to just not do the straight bubblegum Sheridan music. There's more to it than that. The next guy followed up on him, John Mayall. Now, whereas John Mayall did the early 60s British stuff, John Mayall is the guy who brought in Eric Clapton. In fact, he put Eric Clapton on his biggest album, Ginger Baker. They formed Cream together. So he has influenced the people in the latter portion, like the Yardbirds and, some Blind Faith and Cream as well. Finally, Big Mama Thornton. Oh my gosh, it took you long enough to get Big Mama Thornton in there. You can't have the woman who first did Hound Dog that made Elvis go up and skyrocket and got all these rockabilly people to come in like Carl Perkins, Buddy Holly. You got to put Big Mama Thornton in there. So that was this year's group. Didn't talk that much because I like to keep it as short as possible. Now, some of y'all are going to disagree. You know, how can you say Jimmy Buffett he didn't get voted in? But hey, a bunch of people said he's our buddy, he's our pal. You're in. Peter Frampton, how'd he get on just one album? If you're going to go based on one album, then you got to put Alanis Morissette in there. She might make it. You got to put Sinead O'Connor in there. She might make it. If she don't get voted in, she might get into the musical excellence where they go like, oh, wow, they're good guys. Besides that, Alanis is touring this year with Joan Jett. So, maybe she's campaigning for next year to get in. I'm not sure. But anyway, that was it. Oh, Dave Matthews people. I like Dave. I'm just not so sure he should be in. Maybe eventually I can do a show about people who are in who shouldn't be. Foreigner's got a lot of hits. Well, so did Three Dog Night, and they're not in. But maybe they will be one day. All right, I'll be back soon. I still have to do the Taylor Swift album. I'm sorry, one day she'll be in the Rock Hall. I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying one day she's going to be there. And I'll tell you why she's the biggest recording artist at this time going on when we do. I am so happy this got through, and I'm happy y'all are there listening to me. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the thumbs down I got. Hey, it's all good. It's up to you guys to tell me if I should keep coming back. I will see y'all real soon. Thank you once again.